Hey, what's happening, sports fans? It is Monday, the 17th of August, also known as the kickoff of the NBA playoffs. So get ready, some excitement, get your popcorn ready, and let's do this.
Let's get it, man. I saw that a lot of those contests were filling on DK last night. So get in there, check out Overlay, which we're about to break down, and it's an exciting day.
I have not secured my DK contest yet, so maybe I'll do that when we're all done here. I'm trying to get some coffee on. I've been up all night thinking about the NBA playoffs, so I have trouble sleeping. I'm like a kid in a candy store today, getting excited for this, guys. For NBA on Overlay, that $20,000 jackpot is bet. If you got the money, go enter that $22 contest, make a play for the big money today. I've been looking through this slate for a while, and excited to talk it over with you. We also got the MLB ones down here. If you don't have the kind of funds to go for the 20,000, keep playing in this $2.50 mini MLB progressive. All you got to do is beat this guy named King Hap. I keep tying, but not having enough tiebreaker points to get into the top 10%. But beating him every single day is just like doubling your money for doing almost nothing.
Can't beat it.
All right, guys. So starting off, Donovan Mitchell versus Rudy Gobert. This is one where I usually side with Gobert, and I'm going to stick with that today because this website disincentivizes missed shots. Mitchell had like a big DK day not too long ago against Donovan Mitchell. Problem with this was, though, like Mitchell shot like 12 of 33. He's struggled against Denver all season long to shoot efficiently. So give me Gobert in this spot.
Yeah, give me Gobert too. Mitchell's going to be needed more, but it also means he's going to shoot more. I'm not going to be surprised if Mitchell outscores him here, but I'm with you on Gobert.
No, it's not a top end pick for me, but I'll stick with Gobert is where I usually end up anyway. All right, moving down from there, we got Jamal Murray versus Michael Porter Jr. Porter Jr. was one of the darlings of the bubble for a few games there, really impressive. But we're to the playoffs now. This will be his first game in the playoffs. Meanwhile, Jamal Murray had an excellent playoff run last year. He looks like he's fully ready to go, and I think they're going to give him a full allotment of minutes. So give me Jamal Murray right here. I just trust him more in this situation.
Murray easy for me too.
All right, Joe Ingles versus Paul Millsap. I like Millsap in the playoffs, but without Mike Conley around, Joe Ingles is going to have himself a nice workload today. So give me Joe Ingles.
I also like Ingles. So with Conley out, I'm with you. I'm going to take Ingles here. It's just more needed.
All right. I expect Millsap to get a solid workload, but they seem to really like Grant too, and those guys seem to kind of go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this next one's a tough one for me. Kyle Lowry versus your boy Spicy P. I think gun to head, I would go with Siakam, but this is one that's a tough one that I'm not lining up to pick.
Yeah, it's very tough because both these guys are really good in essentially the same spot because they're both playing against Brooklyn. I'm going to go Siakam, but I don't love it.
Jared Allen versus Fred VanVleet. I'm going to go with VanVleet. I just trust the guys on Toronto a little bit more than I trust the guys on Brooklyn. There's one guy I like on Brooklyn, but it's not necessarily Jared Allen, although I will give the boy credit for playing real well throughout this bubble run.
So I'm sure the guy you're talking about is LeVert.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's real good. So I agree with you. Like, he's their best player. But I would say Allen is, like, next guy. Like, he's going to play a lot here, assuming the game is close. So I think this one is close because you're right. Obviously, I trust Toronto more. They're in the better spot against Brooklyn. But on the other hand, like, big man, they need Jared Allen more. So I'm really torn here. I'm going to go Allen, but I'm torn.
Norman Powell versus Garrett Temple. This one seemed obvious to me in the beginning. I'm like, well, Norman Powell, but the more I looked at what Temple had been doing in a variety of these games for Brooklyn, who continues to be undermanned without Kyrie, without Spencer Dinwiddie, etc., Temple's been really playing a solid workload for them, hitting his shots really well. So this is another one that I think it's a toss-up. That's obviously the reason they put the question on here. Gun to head, I'm going to go Norman Powell, just a little I like the spot for him a little bit better, but it's another one. I picked this one with low confidence.
Yeah, I think Norman Powell is the better player, but there's a lot more mouths to feed in Toronto, if you will. So I also will go Powell, but don't feel great about it.
All right, let's move down to Philadelphia against Boston. Tobias Harris versus Jaylen Brown. This one, it's not simple that I'm going to get it right because Jaylen Brown is a very good player and is outright, but give me Tobias Harris, who I know is absolutely needed for this Philadelphia team. Meanwhile, Boston has got they got that little pecking order of Tatum, Brown, Hayward, Kemba. You just never know whose day it is. He's not as needed where Harris is 100% needed.
Yeah, I mean, that's just all it is, right? they're very comparable NBA players in my opinion. Like they're both very good, but with no Ben Simmons, Harris is just much more needed. I mean, even with Simmons there, Harris is just as needed on Philly as Brown is for the Celtics.
Would you agree with the statement that if I had to go out and win a game tomorrow, give me Tobias Harris? But I think we know who Tobias Harris is. The potential of Jaylen Brown could potentially get him to be the better player of these two.
Definitely.
All right. Next up, Gordon Hayward versus Al Horford. This is the same thing for me. Somebody brought up an interesting point when we talked about Joel Embiid yesterday on our show that they didn't like him as much with Al Horford around. Well, I'm not saying that's right or not right, but they're going to need Al Horford in this spot. So I think he plays bigger minutes. He's also very, very needed for this Philadelphia team who without Ben Simmons is just, they're not as deep as they would have been before. Duh, right? So give me Horford over Hayward.
Yeah. This one's tougher for me, but I'll take Horford also.
Yeah. I'm not surprised if I get it wrong, but if you're going to ask me to make a choice between the two of them, that's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I actually spent a while this morning thinking about the Shake Milton versus Daniel Theis one. So I guess gun to head, I'm thinking Theis. I'm really worried about him grabbing quick fouls trying to check Embiid, who I think is going to be ultra aggressive today. So I'm back and forth on this one. What are your thoughts?
So I am with you on worried about Theis with the foul trouble. However, I've been reading this morning that Matisse Thybulle is going to get a ton of run in this series, and I think it's going to come at the expense of Shake Milton's minutes. So I'm going to go with Daniel Theis.
I like that insight. You taught me into it. I was on the fence, but that little tidbit right there will push me over onto the other side of this 50-50 spot right here. I like it. All right, Jay Rich versus Marcus Smart. It's the playoffs. I like Marcus Smart in the playoffs. Give me Marcus Smart.
Yeah, me too.
All right. I could definitely see Richardson shooting 3 of 15 today or something like that.
Yep.
All right. Moving down from there, Alec Burks versus OJ Anunoby. Thoughts? You think Thibault's going to be cutting into Burks as well then, I assume?
Yeah, I mean, I think Burks is they need his scoring more, but yes, so I'm going to go Anunoby.
All right, I am going to stick with Burks, though. I like that part you said. I think they're going to need his scoring from the outside. They need somebody to create a shot. You can't dump it off to Embiid every single time. So give me Burks, but it's, again, like most of these, it's hard to give it monster confidence in a situation like this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving down from there, KP versus Paul George. Give me KP.
Ooh. Man, this is a real tough one, I think. You sound pretty confident in KP, huh?
I like Porzingis here.
Okay, I'll ride with you then.
Again, it's not going to be my top confidence one or anything like that. There's a reason if you look at pay sites, they're almost exactly the same price, but give me Porzingis in this one. So, all right, let's go down to that man that we mentioned before, Joel Embiid versus Kawhi Leonard. This is a tough one. Obviously, these two dudes are, a little playoff tested after the last couple of years. One of them's got a couple of rings to be a little bit even more playoff tested.
I mean, this is a real tough one as well. They are. I love Embiid today, so I'm going to roll Embiid. But I get why anyone would choose Kawhi. You've talked about the Dallas defense. I'm sure both these guys are going to play well, which is why I don't love it. With big men like this, I always lean there over wings.
Also, the Clippers running close to full strength today, if not full strength, they're deep and have plenty of ways to win this game. Whereas the only way Philly wins this game, minus Tobias Harris going 10 of 11 from 3-point range or something asinine like that, is for Joel Embiid to be, the best of who he is. So I'm going to stick with Embiid as well, and I'll roll with you on this one. But it's hard to pick Kawhi in a playoff scenario or against Kawhi in a playoff scenario.
So for me, I'm with you. I actually think that Philly has a good shot to win this game, win this series. And it's only happening if Embiid plays like a boss. So I like Embiid a lot. I'm choosing him here.
All right. Jokic versus Tatum. Give me Jokic.
Yes.
All right. Caris.
I will say about Tatum, his road got a lot easier with no Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons was best defender of Tatum throughout the regular season, I was reading.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. They seem to match up pretty well, and Simmons is an excellent defender, so no doubt here. But this just goes back to, I know Jokic in the playoffs plays monster minutes and has monster usage, whereas Tatum, again, I think he's the best Boston player, but it could be Kemba or Jalen or anybody could be on fire today.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Karis LeVert versus Kemba. Give me Karis.
Yeah, same. He's just way more needed.
Yes, absolutely. LeVert, I could definitely see if this game is competitive, see him playing 40 minutes today.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Clarkson versus Royce O'Neil. Battle of the cheap chalk pays. I'm going to take Royce O'Neil, but it's real close.
Why Royce O'Neil?
They're both going to play a lot of minutes today. Royce will be in the starting lineup. We know that. With no Bogdanovich and no Conley. This, for me, goes for, I could see them with similar outputs, but I don't expect Royce O'Neil to miss a bunch of shots where I think we all know Clarkson is very capable of poor shooting days. So, in a very much toss-up. And O'Neil has just played better and better with this team in the absence of Bogdanovich, so I'm not as hard on him as I used to be.
This is one where if I need 40 fantasy points, I want Clarkson. But if I'm going for, the safe play, it's O'Neil. So I'm with you.
All right. Monty Morris versus Tory Craig. I also spent a while looking at this one this morning because I think it's a tough question. I'm going to ride with Tory Craig because I think he's definitely going to see his minutes in the absence of Harris and Will Barton. I expect Morris to get some run, but I could also see Jamal Murray playing a ton of minutes in this game.
Yeah, same. Oh, man. This is a tough one, man. I'm not going to choose it because of what you just said. I could see each of these guys only playing a few minutes. Although, yeah, I'll go Monte Morris. I'll lean Monte Morris.
You're going to go Monte? Okay. I think I'll pick this one, but I think it'll be at the bottom of my 12.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. DFS, a.k.a. Dorian Finney-Smith versus Joe Harris. They did a great job of giving out tough questions today. And this is another one. I went through their playoff logs or their bubble logs, tried to project what I thought the expectations of these two guys were. And this is not an easy question. It comes down to, does Harris hit his threes? And some tough Toronto perimeter defense has me siding with, I think they need a little Dorian Finney-Smith in their lives today. So he has the subtle edge for me.
Yeah. I feel like this is all dependent on whether you think Brooklyn is in this game or not. Because
I think they are.
So do I. So I'm going to go Harris. Because if they're in this game, Harris, Allen, and LeVert got to play well.
All right, moving down from there, Marcus Morris Sr. versus Garrett Temple. So here's one where I've been a big fan of Marcus Morris in the bubble, but knowing that we probably got Trez today, we're probably going to see a steady run of Lou, Kawhi, and PG do their thing. Give me Temple, who I think is more needed than Marcus Morris Sr., who's a good player, but he's at best the fifth player on this team. At absolute best, and could be as low as 6th or 7th.
He's definitely I don't think he's the fifth best player.
Who do you think is better than him after the top 4 guys?
So are you saying Harrell is the 4th?
Harrell, Lou, PG, Kawhi, and then it's I think you get into a bait with Reggie Jackson, Pat Beverly, and Marcus Morris.
I think Pat Beverly does more than Marcus Morris, so I would have him 5th. But you're right; those guys are not those guys aren't they're all on a similar tier. And I'm going to go with Temple also.
I would take Pat Beverly on my real life team, but fantasy-wise, I think Marcus Morris does more than Bev, who is just that tenacious little guy who I would take on my real life team first.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Zubotch versus Clibba. So this one's tough. Zubotch, and I'll throw this tidbit in here just because it's the first day of the playoffs. Harrell is listed as questionable, but it really seems more like probable. Zubotch is basically free on pay sites. So watch for the Harrell news, but it's definitely anticipated that he plays today. Yeah, I'm with you.
He's been tweeting about it. He's playing.
Okay. That makes you really question what Zubach's role and minutes will be on this team. Harrell also hasn't played a game in 5 months.
Yeah, exactly. I will say though, Harrell's what he does, I feel like he could just walk in and play.
Yeah, you're not worried about his shot, but what's his
energy?
What kind of shape is he in? Yeah, it's hard to get into game shape without playing games.
So because of that, I'm going to go Zubach, who's been playing well, but I don't love it because of Harrell being back. If Harrell was out, I'd like Zubach a lot here.
I also am going to go with Zubach, but it's really close. And they're all really close today. So it's going to be a collection of tough choices. And we get into the last one right here, and this is another one. It's difficult to answer. Pat Beverly is listed as questionable today. I don't know what the Clippers' thought process is on this. Do we sit him for a game knowing that we have enough firepower to win without him? or we want our, one of our emotional leaders playing in this game. So if Pat Beverly's out, give me Reggie Jackson. If Pat Beverly's in, give me Steph Curry.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that's a breakdown.
It's a tough one to know about. I really don't know. Like you said, Harrell's playing. I'm with you 110% on that one. Reggie Jackson, I just don't know about Beverly because this is a deep and really good Clippers team that, quite frankly, just doesn't need all their guns every single game because they are deep and good.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it is.
All right, Bum, I'm going to put you on the spot right here. Gun to head. Who wins the chip?
Ooh, wow. You're going to go there already. Honestly, it's hard to – right now, it's hard to pick anyone against the Clippers. I'm not saying that they're like such heavy favorites, but I feel like they've got the most well-rounded team. Because before the bubble, I would have said Milwaukee, and they're still like up there for me. But like now, because of everything, like there's no home court advantage. They're not playing amazing. Like I'm not going to be surprised if they lose in the second round or the conference finals.
No, I wouldn't either. I keep thinking like Lakers and Bucks and a couple of these teams who've been lackluster will turn it on in the first round. Sure. The Bucks do have the advantage of the first round, almost like a bye. But if I had to bet on a team right now, I would also bet on the Clippers. I'll take LeBron and AD over Kawhi and Paul George by the subtlest amounts.
Sure.
But the Clippers are so much deeper. And
so much deeper, especially when you're like now with no Rondo, who's like a big postseason piece. I mean, yeah, the Lakers are just really shorthanded. And it's not like they were really deep at the beginning of the year.
I know people want to ride with studs all the time, whether you're talking MJ, Tim Duncan, Kobe, any of these guys. But I think it's foolish to not realize that like role players make a difference. And the Clippers got some awesome role players. When you can consider Lou Will like a role player, that bench kind of scoring that comes in, an energy guy like Harrell, a tenacious defender like Pat Beverly, a guy like Marcus Morris who could come in and hit 4 or 5 3-pointers in the game, and even guys like Jermichael Green and stuff like that. I almost said Jermichael Finley. Jermichael Green, Zubotch, who's showed that he's got some game and stuff like that. This is a deep team.
Yeah, and also like you said, you'd take LeBron and AD over Kawhi and Paul George, but like they have 2 stars. Like they have a top 5 player in Kawhi and then a top like 15 player, whatever you want to call him, in Paul George, who I like a lot. Like in some ways, like I'd rather have Paul George on my team than Anthony Davis. In a lot of ways, I think Anthony Davis is more talented, but there are definitely things about Paul George I like more than Anthony Davis.
And both Paul George and Anthony Davis would make my all overrated team.
Yeah,
I think they're both a little bit more hype than they are like everybody's always like, oh, AD's a top 5 player, AD's a top 5 player, AD's a top 5 player. And we've kind of joked around about this, like based on what? Like talent? Sure, I'll give you that. But based off production and what he's done to make his teammates better and who you want to give the ball to in the fourth quarter, not really.
It's funny because like I see the argument for the talent, but like on the other hand, like why is Anthony Davis so much more talented than Karl Anthony Towns? Like, is he so much more talented? No.
We've talked through, like, we've gone through our top 5. Would you take AD over LeBron? If you say yes, that is a silly answer. Kawhi? No way. Giannis? Mm-hmm. I'll take James Harden over Anthony Davis.
A lot of people wouldn't. I mean, I get that. I think that's very close.
And then, who's the 5th guy? Why am I drawing a complete? Like, I'll take Luka over Anthony Davis. What's that?
What'd you say?
I'll take Luka over Anthony Davis right now.
Oh, I was going to say Steph Curry.
Sure, Steph Curry. I got 6 right there.
Yeah, like I would definitely take Steph Curry for sure.
Kevin Durant if he's healthy.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, yes, I'm with you.
So that's always gets on my nerves, like when you watch like anything on ESPN, they're like, oh, AD's a top 5 player. And I'm like, you sure about that?
Yeah.
Are you really, really sure?
I feel like that stuff gets thrown around, just like he's a top 5 player. He's a top, you know what I mean? Like, is he though? I'm with you. Anthony Davis is not a top 5 player.
Okay. I like that. I like that you agree with me. And like, I agree. A lot of people would take him over James Harden, but I think, in a lot of ways, James Harden gets a bad rap. Oh, Harden hasn't been able to win the chip. I'm like, Anthony Davis has 1 playoff series win, and he was in a lot of ways carried by great play by Rondo, Drew Holiday, and the boys that series.
Yeah. So that's another thing. Like everyone's like kind of on Dame's nuts right now. I'm really interested to see like what happens with him in the playoffs but we've talked about this also. Like no one has won anything except for the Warriors, LeBron, and Kawhi. That's it. So,
has anybody else even like been close?
Well, LeBron made all the East finals. So, like,
right?
From the East, no. And then in the West, like, you've got, like, Westbrook, who was close with Durant. Like, Durant was close, but then he went to Golden State.
And
so
then Harden's been close. That's
sure.
it.
That's it.
That's really, really, really. Oh, Westbrook's another one. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people take AD over him. I'm like, are you really, really sure that if you wanted to go out and win basketball games, because like, I mean, when they broke down what Anthony Davis has done in the fourth quarters, I'm like, man, this guy just he just doesn't come up big when it matters.
Yeah, he like shrivels. And I do often like, because he obviously is very talented. There's a reason we're having this conversation, but I do often think about like Karl Anthony Towns, who's also like crazy talented, and no one's calling him a top 5 player.
Yeah, I will know again, talent wise, if you want to say AD's a top 5 talent, absolutely. Because you can't teach that size, right?
Right. Which is the same with Towns, though.
Yep.
I think those two are like very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah, you're definitely. I hadn't really thought about it that way until you brought it up last week, and I think we'd all take AD over Cat, but still, they make some similar arguments for both of them.
And like even that, like why? Like why are we so fast to take AD over Cat? Like it's not like Towns has done anything, but like I feel like they're very similar. Just they have different type of games.
Well, AD's really good defensively, and Towns isn't. So that's the big difference for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's what we got for today. Let's watch some basketball here in a few hours.
Thanks, guys.